Most people chase new experiences for peace, but what if I told you that the fastest way to quiet a racing mind isn't found in a new retreat or another fancy studio, but by doing the same exact boring routine every single day? Now, after 1,826 days of practicing the same exact sequence without changing a single pose at the same exact pace every single day, I realized that the secret technology lies in actually doing the same thing, and that's what rewires your nervous system for safety. In this video, I'm going to show you why the boring path is actually the breakthrough that you've been waiting for. You see, I used to treat my healing journey like it was a shopping trip. I was constantly bouncing between different studios, different teachers, different trends, hoping that the next thing would finally fix my anxiety. But my nervous system didn't really care about variety, didn't really care if that same studio had like a sauna and an ice bath and like some cool sound bath afterwards. All it was doing was seeking safety. And I realized that this constant search for newness was actually keeping me stuck in the state of fight or flight. I'm Sushmita, but you can call me Sushi, and I help busy minds quiet their racing thoughts and reclaim their inner focus through Ashtanga Yoga. And if you're ready to stop guessing and start building a structured practice that actually sticks, then my Yoga Mastery program might be the right fit for you. There is a link in the description below, but there's no pressure at all. It just gives you the exact roadmap that I use with my students. But for now, let's dive into the neuroscience of why boring might actually be the new bliss. So in a world that's always screaming for more, always screaming for faster, always screaming for newer, the path to lasting calm, a kind of calm that's unshakable, is often found in the opposite direction. It's found in the discipline of showing up for yourself in the same exact way day after day without expecting any magical breakthrough or any moment that just feels like, you've had an ecstatic experience. It's found in the profound intelligence of repetition. Now, the boring practice of Ashtanga Yoga isn't just about getting insanely flexible or getting insanely strong. I know a lot of practitioners do that, but it's not about those things. It's actually a sophisticated, time-tested technology that can be used to regulate your nervous system, and it can heal your brain from the inside out. We're sold this idea that healing has to be this huge, dramatic breakthrough where we're crying and shaking and we're drinking cacao and wearing all white and like hugging strangers. But what if the most profound transformation doesn't come from a single intense experience, but from doing the same boring thing every single day? And this is really what Ashtanga Yoga offers. It's the same thing every single day until your nervous system feels safe doing the same exact thing day in and day out without much variety. The truth is, our culture is obsessed with spiritual experiences. We're constantly searching for the next aura ring or the next 8-sleep mattress or going on some ayahuasca retreat, thinking that the next experience will somehow finally fix our childhood wounds and solve this underlying feeling of like being completely overwhelmed with the way that life is. But our nervous system doesn't care about those novel experiences. It doesn't care about those intense experiences where we're like feeling like we're not ourselves anymore. It cares about safety. First and foremost, it cares about familiar things wherein it doesn't have to scan for danger. Because chasing dramatic breakthrough experiences can feel like you're making progress. It can feel like, you're having all of these like shifts in your body, but it can also cause a lot of turbulence. And being in this wellness industry and seeing all of these Western people go through these retreats and come back to Ashtanga Yoga, I can tell you this, that if you just had a simple practice that you can integrate into your daily life, something that doesn't just fade the week after you come back from the retreat, actually is something that's worth investigating, that's worth actually incorporating into your life. And if you find yourself constantly putting yourself in unpredictable situations, using ClassPass or MindBody or whatever, and just trying different things all the time, you're subtly telling your nervous system to be braced and to be ready for like attack all the time. And you see, the problem is, if you're constantly putting yourself in unpredictable situations, using ClassPass or MindBody or whatever, and you're just trying different things all the time, you're subtly telling your nervous system to almost be like braced and ready for battle all the time. and you think to yourself, what if that class is too hard? What if that teacher's voice is annoying? Because you haven't tried and tested, because it's so new, maybe the studio is too cold, maybe everyone is around you is like in a beautiful sports bra and you're just wearing like a t-shirt. Like all of these unpredictable things in your environment can create this signal to your nervous system that it isn't safe to just relax and just be. And so the endless options that we have today is actually the polar opposite of the safety and stability that our nervous system really needs in order for genuine deep healing. And this constant search for like trying out the latest studios, for scrolling through YouTube trying to find the perfect class that has hips and hamstrings and all these different things that fits into your needs for that particular day, that itself can become a source of stress instead of just like giving us a way to heal and come back to ourselves. So what's the solution? Now, obviously, I'm going to say practice Ashtanga because it's the best thing ever. But this is where a practice like Ashtanga Yoga really matters. Because even though on the surface, it can seem incredibly rigid, it can seem incredibly monotonous, it can seem incredibly boring, the primary series is called Yoga Chikitsa, which means yoga therapy. And basically, it's a fixed sequence of postures. And every day that you come to the mat, you do the same exact sun salutations, you go through the same exact standing poses, you do the same exact seated postures, and then you do it in the same exact order until you get to the closing sequence. And there are no surprises for your nervous system. There's no novelty that you have to kind of, grapple with. For a mind that's trained to constantly seek stimulation, and all of our minds are in the world that we live in, this can kind of sound boring on the surface, but the boringness itself, that is its best part. That's the part that's kind of lost in all of the class-pass, mind-body versions of yoga. Because this practice actually gives you permission to stop striving, to stop trying different things, and actually just go deeper and understand yourself and know like one posture really well. It leverages the power of repetition, this really key thing that we need in order to make any progress, right? And because you're repeating the same exact postures, something remarkable starts to happen over time. You fundamentally learn how to soothe your own nervous system and you rewire your brain over time. And the predictability of the routine isn't just like a weakness. It isn't just that, yoga teachers who do like Ashtanga Yoga aren't like creative or anything like that. It's just that is inbuilt. That's like a feature, not a bug. And so it's the entire point of the practice is that it's the same thing. It's a safe, stable container where your nervous system can finally feel like, okay, I can shift out of that chaos and I can come back into this stable state of coherence by the end of the practice because I know what's coming next. And let's understand a little bit about the neuroscience of how this actually happens. Why does it actually work? This isn't magic, obviously. This is studied and time tested, and it happens in a few key ways. So first, there's this concept called neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change its structure, like literally change its structure and its function, what it's supposed to do, based on what you're doing, like the actions that you do in real time. And you can think of neural pathways as kind of like walking in a forest. So the first time that you have a thought or you perform a single action, it's almost like you're bushwhacking this path. You're like taking your chisel and you're going around bushwhacking the path. It's tough and it takes a lot of effort. You feel tired. But every single time you come back to that same path and you walk down that same path, there's a little bit of space. There's a little bit of clearing. There's a little bit more like leeway for you to walk a little bit easier. And so it gets clearer and easier for you to walk down that same path every single time you return. It's also easier for others to walk down. But that repeatable calming practice like Ashtanga Yoga literally carves a deep pathway for calm in your brain, and that then becomes your new default state. Now, I have a track that I like to use whenever I practice, and each time I play that track and I go through my sun salutations, it's like, wow, I'm going down that same path and it's very familiar. Second, repetition creates a profound sense of safety in your nervous system. Because the sole job of your nervous system is to scan your environment for danger, for safety, so that it can relax or it can do something about it. And so constantly changing teachers, constantly changing studios can almost trigger this threat response in your body, and you don't even realize it because your brain wants novelty. But a predictable home practice kind of does the opposite. By showing up to the same sequence every single day with the same teacher that you've chosen and in the same place in your house, you're sending a powerful, consistent message to your brain. You're saying, I've been here before, this is safe, this is familiar, you don't have to make sense of everything. And this signal of safety is exactly what's needed to shift out of that fight or flight mode and into this active rest and digest mode that actually promotes healing. And I noticed that within even a few weeks of doing the same exact sequence, my emotional regulation improved, I had better mood during the day, I had lower anxiety, I had greater resilience to all the stress that was thrown my way. And it was as if it was like day and night between doing vinyasa and Ashtanga vinyasa, because the days that I would manage to squeeze in 45 minutes to an hour of practice and finish with the Shavasana, I would be a completely different person. And so all I want to say is that the third point about this and repetition is that it helps to quiet your thinking mind. So when you first learn the sequence, when you're a brand new beginner, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that does all the decision making, it's almost like it's working overtime. It's like, where do I put the hand? Where do I put the foot? What do I do it? But gradually, as you keep repeating the same exact sequence, that same task is gradually handed over to a different part of the brain. And this part of your brain, if you go back to your 10th standard biology, it's basically the basal ganglia. And this part of you is responsible for your habits. So things start to run on automatic without you ever having to think about the individual poses or what comes next. And so this frees up a large amount of mental energy. And so the chattering, the planning, the worrying, all those things that your brain is constantly doing, that can take a backseat and you can just drop into that state of flow, that state of movement meditation. So long term, what actually happens is that you're literally rewiring your brain. You've practiced for 6 months maybe right now, or maybe you're just starting out, but when you get to that point where you've practiced for 2 years consistently, you'll notice that you're less reactive. The people around you are saying, wow, what are you doing? Please tell me, what pill are you having? Your digestive fire, your Agni starts to work properly. You begin to notice that your whole body feels light. And they say in the yogic texts that when you do asana, when you do rigorous asana, it's like you become light and strong like a lion. And you don't have so much energy to waste on overthinking because you've trained your body and your nervous system to a new baseline calm. And that then just get carried on through the rest of the day, and then people in your life notice it. So Ashtanga Yoga specifically is a time-tested technology for applying these principles. Each element of the practice is designed to reinforce this process of regulation through repetition. The cornerstone of the Ashtanga practice is breath synchronized movement, known as vinyasa. Now, in the practice, you basically link every single movement, whether it's an upward dog or a downward dog, to an inhale or an exhale. So it's like inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So every opposite movement is either an inhale or an exhale. And we use a specific breathing technique called the 𝐤𝐸𝐸 breathing technique. And 𝐤𝐸𝐸 breath is the gentle constriction at the base of the throat. And this creates a soft but audible sound. And this technique is a powerful, really powerful tool for regulating the entire nervous system. And it helps to slow down the breath. It helps to deepen the breath, which is frankly one of the fastest ways to shift out of that fight or flight response back into that rest and digest response. Then there's the repeatable sequence, the same exact sequence every single day, because you never have to wonder what comes next. You don't never have to wonder, what should I do tomorrow? It's the same exact sequence. And so your mind is kind of freed up from the decision making or the, what should I do next, or the craving for novelty. And this builds your inward focus in your practice. This builds what's known as interoception, which is the awareness of your internal state, how you're feeling moment to moment. And this knowing how you're feeling inside is an absolutely critical skill when it comes to emotional regulation. So for me personally, I've learned emotional regulation through the steady container of the practice because it just serves as this steady mirror. And then finally, there's the drishti, which is a single gazing point for each posture. When you have this soft, fixed gaze, it's not like your mind is going everywhere and you're constantly kind of limiting your external sensory input, and you're telling your brain there's nothing else you need to search for or scan for or do in this moment. The focus is here on some point in my body or just in front of me, and that simple act of using your eyes to focus on a single point, it dramatically reduces all that mental distraction and it deepens concentration inside of you. So even the arc of the practice, if you noticed how the poses are laid out, it's it's extremely, extremely intelligent. So there's the dynamics and salutations where you just warm up and you start heating up the body. Then the standing poses kind of utilize that. It utilizes your flexibility and it challenges you, starting to activate that parasympathetic nervous system, but in a safe and controlled way. And then when it comes to the sitting poses and the finishing sequence, all of the forward folds and all of those calming postures that you have kind of deliberately slow down and down regulate your nervous system, ensuring that you leave the mat in like a relaxed, calm state that's parasympathetic. And this whole process kind of guides you from a place of like having scattered energy, which you're bound to have if you have a busy mind, to a state of calm, focused vitality. So how does this transformation from boring to blissful actually happen? At first, the practice might feel mechanical. I know it did for me. You might feel clumsy. Your mind will definitely wander without the loud music or the ever-changing sequence. And you might even feel bored for a little while. But if you stick with it, if you don't give up in that initial phase, something incredible starts to happen. The repetition stops being like this boring punishment that you're putting yourself through, and it becomes a kind of ritual that you look forward to. The physical postures start to become familiar. You're not like figuring out where to put your hand and your foot. And then it's like a familiar language that your body learns how to speak fluently. And the predictable sequence becomes a moving meditation over time. And it's a place that you can return to every single day to find your center, to reconnect with yourself. No matter how chaotic the external world is, your practice will stay the same and you will show up to your practice and be transformed in the same way every single time. And that's where the real healing happens. It's not about some dramatic experience that you have on a retreat wearing white and like crying and hugging strangers. It's actually about gently and persistently overwriting all of those old dysfunctional neural pathways and then rewiring them into like new resilient pathways of calm. And so you aren't actually fighting with your triggers, you aren't like doing anything about them, you're just allowing them to bubble up and you're dissolving them through the safe and steady container of your consistent Ashtanga practice. So the idea is to do the same safe thing over and over and over again until your body and your nervous system finally believes that you are indeed safe. There is no actual threat, regardless of what's happening in your world, regardless of the chaos in your current life. And through that, you're actually teaching your body, you're teaching your nervous system at the most fundamental level that it can be safe, that it can be calm, that it can be regulated, and you're the one in control. And this transforms you from being a passive victim of a dysregulated nervous system to an active participant of your whole entire well-being. I hope this video resonated with you and I hope you got a lot out of it. By the way, if you're looking for some help on how to actually implement these strategies, there is a link in the description below where you can set up a call with me. I would love to chat with you and find out if I can actually really truly help you. And if you're a good fit, I would be so happy to welcome you into the Yoga Mastery program. But even otherwise, thank you so much for watching till the very end. If you found value, make sure to subscribe and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.